Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So I know it's been a while since I made another tutorial, but now I'm back at it. So today we're going to be making something a little bit different than on my two previous tutorials. Today we're going to be making or at least breaking down a Bsterthegawd type beat. If you don't know who he is, which I'm assuming you already do since you either looked up this tutorial, you mostly looked up this tutorial, but Bsterthegawd is essentially a producer who has three main elements that you notice in his beats. The first main element would be the sidechained samples using a plugin like Kickstart or maybe LFO tool. You have the Sidechain Samples is the first one. You have the very loud, punchy kicks. That's probably his most dominant feature. Of course, you know, thick bassy 808s, and then you have your swung hi-hats. I might have just said 4, but it's mainly the hi-hats, the kick, and the sidechain sample. So I'm gonna play the sample or the beat, and then I'll break it down afterwards. So that's the full beat. So yeah, a few things that you may notice. The kick was very loud. There's some parts where the 808s were kind of panning. A lot of little transitions if you're gonna make a beat kind of with the same sample. You know, if you want to make a beat like this, which it's usually kind of the same repeating sample, and if it's gonna be an instrumental, just put in a lot of transitions, like fills using snares. It'll make it sound a lot more interesting, engage your listeners, I think, a lot more. Yeah, so I think the first and most important thing comes with the starter bass mix of what you should have for this beat. So I actually got this from another YouTuber, which I'm going to link that video down into the description, in which he showed how to make a Bsterthegawd type sounding kick, which I kind of inspired me to make an entire tutorial on how to make a full beat. Okay, so the first part we're gonna look at is we're gonna look at what we should have on the master. So obviously you're gonna want to have a soft clipper. The soft clipper apparently can just be left on default settings. So you just add a soft clipper, this drop down bar right here, and you should be all set with that. A fruity free filter, same thing. You start off with the default, but you just bring up this frequency knob all the way. I guess it gives it a more brighter sound, which you can sort of hear within that sample. A fruity wave shaper. So it's gonna look something like this. So you see, it'll start off like a straight line. You basically just move this point to the third square, the third line up right here. You just move that dot right there. Again, that just brings the sound out more. Fruity limiter, of course you're gonna have the limiter on, but you're also gonna be soft clipping. So it's kind of like it equals out. And so I know a lot of people get, mad when they see a limiter on the master, which I normally don't do, but I was just going off what he did in the tutorial, and it ended up sounding decent. So, yeah, so as far as the limiter too, just default settings on the limiter. Yeah, just default settings, everything normal. And then we go into the kick itself. So actually for this was a really good tutorial because it doesn't really matter what kind of kick you're gonna use for this, because as long as you EQ it correctly, which you basically bring down the the low end, and then you pull up some of the you bring down the high end, and then you boost some of the lows and a little bit of the mids, and it should look something like this. If it doesn't sound right, or you don't think it sounds right for your kick, feel free to change it, but this is what I went off of that other YouTuber, which I will again link down into the description. So yeah, so the kick should sound something like this. Okay, so now that we have the kick down, we can go into the sample. So I'm not gonna tell you to use this specific sample, but I will tell you to use maybe like a boom bap-esque sample. I got it from this pack right here. The classic like chops samples. Of course you can chop your own samples, but I used this one. So when I first did this beat, I first just used the whole chop across the entire bar, and I did not think it really sounded that good. There's some parts of the sample that kind of interrupted the bounciness when I added kickstart, So I just chopped it into smaller increments and repeated it, which I thought sounded a lot better. So for the sample, what I basically did, it wasn't really that complicated. I think once you have your master kind of sound, you don't really have to do that much mixing really after that. So I don't know if this is really doing anything. I don't remember why I did that, so you could just, of course, I think the most important element, just add a kickstart. It doesn't really matter how much you're sidechaining it. I just turn this knob up all the way, just normal sidechaining. Fruity limiter, so I think I might have, yes. Yeah, so you can sidechain the snare, of course, which I did. I did sidechain the snare to the sample. So basically you just go over here, you start from the snare, you see an arrow right here, you just right click on sidechain to this track, which I did on this track right here, and then you basically go to the limiter, go to comp, select the thing that you want to sidechain to, turn down these two knobs, and just figure out, this basically determines how much the sound is going to duck under either that kick or snare. The threshold and the knee ratio also helps, but I don't usually mess with that knob. So yeah, pretty basic. This is just for effects later on. So what did I do for this? Oh yeah, so for this one, I wanted to add some space. Turn down the size, turn down the diff, turn down the speed, the decay, turned up the damp all the way, and then turn the wet knob pretty much almost up. It's basically creating sort of a chorusy effect through reverb. So yeah, that's a sample. Just repeated it through the second half. To make it more interesting, I just pitched down the sample a few semitones. Like that. You could always do that too, which makes it more interesting. So yeah, that's the kick and the sample. So I guess I'll go into the 808s now. So the 808s. Right, here it is. So I actually noticed 808s with that, like, there's kind of like you can kind of hear that sharp layer on top of it. It sounded a little bit better than something compared to a traditional 808 like this. This is better for doing slides. Since the kick was gonna go over this 808 pretty hard, I just got rid of that punch at the beginning. So yeah, this is what the 808 sounds like. So of course, just put a decent amount of slides in there. You don't have to go crazy. Like, I don't want to overdo the slides, but yeah, just put some like interesting slides. Like don't feel afraid to like raise the slided 808 up an extra octave. So that's what I did. And then I made a second variation of this 808 again, just to make it more interesting, right here. Yeah, again, that's just another idea with a fair amount of slides to it. If you have sausage fattener, I would recommend using it. I don't think it's actually... Yeah, usually I don't think this is actually on. So, I mean, I would recommend using it if your 808 that you are using is not piercing through enough, but don't make it too loud because you want that kick to be pretty prominent. Okay, so I did sidechain the snare to the 808 again. That previous method of sidechaining, just do that with the 808. This was just an effect. This was also just an effect. So the 808 is just pretty much dry. I think the kick should be loud enough for you not to really do anything with the 808. You might have to get rid of that punchy part at the beginning of the 808, but other than that, yeah. So I'll go into the hi-hats now. So next we have the hi-hats. Here's what it sounds like. So the hi-hats just add some like triplets. You can mess with the velocity too. I didn't do that, but yeah. Pretty important. This is definitely part of Bster's sound. He has pretty bouncy beats. This is like my favorite knob in the entirety of FL Studio. Like I don't really know what I'd do without it, because it really, if you turn up that time shift knob, which I did do it pretty far, it basically determines whether your beat is going to be bouncy or is it going to be like a straight forward beat. And my personal taste is just really bouncy, laid back beats. So I always just turn up that time shift knob whenever it sounds good in any sound. So I just did that. As far as what's on the hi-hat, apparently I added a multi-band compressor. You don't have to do this, but I just added some brightness to the hi-hats. Just brought it out a little bit. Of course, we have the open hats. Just put that on the offbeat. Just put it on the offbeat. It should sound something like this for the open hats in the context of the drum loop. Same thing with the open hats, just time shift them so they line up properly with the other hi-hats. Snare. So I added just like a little rim shot, of course. that's also kind of on the offbeat. I don't think there's any effects on the snare. Yeah, the snare is dry. Just use a trappy snare. You don't have to time shift that. You really only need to time shift the hats and the open hats. So yeah, that's the basic part. The majority of what the beat sounds like is in all of that, in all of those elements. So now we can start getting into transitions. So the first one you'll notice is this drum fill right here. Just use drum fills before drops, something with toms. You can make it slightly distorted, feel free to do that. Use crashes too, like in every single drop, put a crash there. I noticed Bster does that in a lot of his beats. As far as like other effects, I just took the 808 and I automated the pan, which you just create an automation clip right there. It makes it sound kind of cool. It just kind of sweeps through your headphones. So I just did that. It goes up, starts at a normal level, goes up either to the left or right, goes down to the left or right, goes up, and then goes back to normal. I did that for every part where it's the 808 slide. At the majority, at the end of most bars of the beat, I added that in. So yeah, so there's a lot going on. I'll break down this transition, which there's a lot going on in this one. So here, I'll play it real quick. So basically it's sort of like the same thing I did with the 808. I just added a different snare transition. There's no effects on it. It's not attached to anything, but I just increased the volume as it got to the last snare, and then I increased the pan as it got to the last snare. It might sound a little bit bland if you just do a straight snare. Yeah. And then a little perk sound, no effects. And then you have the panned 808. And then you have a, is it low cut? Hold on, I'm trying to listen to this, if it's low cutted or high cutted. Oh yeah, okay, so I low passed the sample. You can always do that. I'm pretty sure he does that with his transitions. Yeah, so actually this is a really cool effect that I've kind of been doing for a fair amount of time when I started making beats. But this part right here, you could add transitions in the middle, or like sort of in the middle of a bar, right here, with this new 808 pattern. You can see that I'm switching between this 808 pattern, this one, this one, this one, to make it interesting, just not the same 808 pattern going over and over and over the whole entire beat. So it basically sounds like this. So to make the, if like I wanted the 808 just to like be on its own, so I first noticed that it just sounds really dry without any effects on it if it's just going to be the only thing playing. So I just added some chorus and then did that same panning effect that I did earlier with those that 808 pattern, and then I just added a Vox to fill in a little bit of space. And then of course crash after the moment of where there's no drums playing and it's just one sound. You just add a crash once the drums start hitting again. This is a similar transition to this previous one right here, and I'll play that. So yeah, basically you could use the same sounds that you had earlier with these type of beats to make it easier on yourself, I guess. But I guess to make it more interesting, I would just figure out different ways each time to put those sounds together. So for example, this is a longer transition. Sorry, where is it? Right here. So the snare goes, it does that same effect. And then the sample, this is, yeah, so it does that, low passes, perk hits, panned 808, and then boom, right into the beat. And then we get into the next part of the beat. So basically in this part, I just lowered the sample down 2 semitones. Yeah, so for this I just added this first like measure right here. Yeah, this first measure I just low passed, and then it goes into the next key, and then it goes back to its original frequency, and then it, of course, it crashes. It crashes right here, and then basically same concepts, but I just moved the 808 down 2 semitones. The patterns are basically the same as previously. Make sure your 808s are in tune, that's very important. And for the last final 2 parts of the beat I'll explain is the outro, so right here. So just to make a quick outro, I didn't feel like going crazy with the outro, I just added a tape stop plugin from Blue. I'm pretty sure it's a free plugin. I just went to the trigger effect, automated that, and I just, yeah. And it just kind of makes that tape stop effect. And yeah, that's the outro of the beat. And then here's the intro of the beat, which I will explain after I play it. Oh, I'm sorry, hold on. So here I just put reverb on the master. I basically turned up the size, shortened the decay, turned up the wet level, and kind of turned down this. Put this on stretch, that's pretty important. Leave that on stretch if you want to. I noticed a lot of beats like this have an intro where you get the main sample and just kind of increase the pitch and still until it reaches its normal pitch. At the end right here, you might have to mess around with the automation level so it's at its normal level, so there's no jump in pitch when you hit the actual drop. Yeah, so that's the final part of the beat. Well, there's actually one more part that I'd like to explain, which you don't have to do, but I've noticed it makes it sound a lot better. So what you're gonna do is you're basically, hold on a sec. So what you're basically gonna do is you're gonna export the sample, isolate this sample, turn off any effects that you have, like maybe this reverb, just turn that off. So yeah, this is just an example, but what it's gonna do is if your song isn't sounding as full as you want it to, it's basically gonna like double what was here, what we just played. As you can kind of tell, I'll play it real quick. It sounds a little bit more gritty. The 808s are a lot louder. Of course, it's not like, it's clipping, but it's not clipping in a way where it's mixed like badly. So, honestly, I think it sounds really cool. So that's what I basically did. It kind of just doubles the sound, amplifies it, makes the kick sound a little bit better. So I did that, and that was basically the end of it. And by that point, you should have something at least similar to a Bsterthegawd type beat. This is a pretty popular sound in the SoundCloud producer scene right now, and I'm liking it a lot. Hopefully you guys will too. And consider dropping a like, subscribing, all that jazz. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.